All right, welcome to the latest edition of the FPL America podcast. This is David Smith.
Travis Hoig.
Brian Shesko.
Gentlemen, we are through another week. We have so much to discuss, and it's going to be a ton of fun. We get to talk Liverpool-Arsenal, which that game didn't disappoint, I don't think, for many people. I was disappointed. I feel like Arsenal should have handled their business. But we will get into that. Before we do, forgive me, I feel like I still have a piece of lamb in my teeth. So if you see me trying to dig it out or see my head move off screen, it's because I'm literally have a piece of meat somewhere stuck in my teeth. So I apologize if you see it.
Well, the good news is our views on YouTube are very low, and no one that listens,
right?
the 1,000 or so people that listen every week,
right, are not watching on YouTube.
They can't see your teeth, so you'll be all right.
For those of you who do have the option, remember, we are on YouTube. We don't say that probably enough. FPL America, you can find us there, and you can see our lovely faces if you so choose. Although, again, like Brian has always said, why anyone would choose to listen to us is beyond our imagination. All right, that being said.
That's not true. We can imagine it.
That's fair. That's a good point.
Travis, give you nightmares.
You spent the last couple of days doing something I think was interesting to me. Tell me about it.
Well, it's really been over the course of the past week. I have had the unique opportunity of learning what the United States Soccer Federation wants its grassroots programs to coach.
Okay.
Youth players. So I went through the process of getting certified or licensed, I guess.
Okay.
The language is soft. Through the United States Soccer Federation to be able to coach.
Nice.
7v7, 9v9, 11v11.
Okay.
And so I had a fun time doing some online work.
Crazy question: is the age specified or no?
I mean, to some extent, yeah. So the 7v7, 9v9, 11v11 is the age group progressions.
Okay.
Different groups will do different age groups, but it's mostly the same. So U10-ish is 7v7.
Okay.
And then it progresses from there.
And is there a desire? So is there any specific positions you've been kind of looking for that, like, I need this certification to get that position?
No.
Or is it like, I just kind of want to do it?
Well, honestly, it was a couple of things. For me, one, I've got a kid doing 77 right now, and I'm watching the
7v7?
Yeah, 7v7.
Gotcha.
So U10, at a fairly competitive level, nothing crazy. But I'm just kind of interested to see why their coaches, who I know have gone through these certifications as well, are doing the things that they're doing, because some of it makes sense, some of it doesn't, and I don't want to get in the way, but I also want to make sure that I'm helping my son progress and be better. And the other part of it is I was kind of interested in understanding if there would be a shift in the baseline strategies from the United States Soccer Federation with Pochettino coming in and with the World Cup being here on U.S. soil,
this is interesting.
North American soil.
Yeah.
Just seeing what type of investment and what type of communication they're putting out through the grassroots network. And honestly, I've never been a tremendously, and it's probably not the right word, especially on we're voting soon. I've never been a tremendously patriotic person, especially from a.
I was going to say perverted.
Wow. Of course you would go there, Brian.
But I understand what you're saying.
But it's been really encouraging.
Okay.
And so I had the privilege of not just doing the online work, but also going up near DC and spending the day with a USSF educator and a bunch of other coaches, and we had a blast, learned a lot, and I technically am not a danger to children now.
Good.
So
listen,
it was
that's
great.
Always a great place to start. You're not on the sex offender list, which is great.
No, I didn't say that, but no.
Well, I'm sure they did some form of a background check on some.
They do, but you have to pay for it, and it's optional. What mean thing?
I feel like that should not be optional.
Well, it depends on if you're trying to get an actual coaching role. At that point, it's not optional. But in my circumstances, since I'm not actually doing anything, they have a mechanism to allow you to do that. I've opted out of it because I have no reason to spend that money to do it, and they're not going to find anything, so it'll be boring for them. All that to say,
nice.
Obviously when I did my online work, I did it literally sitting here, and I look like a crazy person because everybody else has got like on their phones or,
Oh, you mean
weird,
you look
weird setups?
You look professional.
So I look and sound professional.
Yes,
as
you do.
All that to say, I wasn't trying to, market for the pod, but it did come up. So shout out to Coach Derek. I know he mentioned he was
Coach
looking
Derek.
to take a listen. Hopefully he finds this episode and not one of our other terrible ones, because this one's got his name in it. So
yeah,
all that to say, it was fun. It was enjoyable, awesome. And I will be sure to use the things I've learned to be better at teaching you guys how to do what you need to do.
I love it. We used to have a segment. We used to have a local referee who was moving up the ranks. Andrew the ref used to come on at times and help us with things, as it seems like the world of refereeing, at least in the English Premier League, always seems to be an issue. And again, it kind of came up this weekend of inconsistencies across the way. Even the Arsenal-Liverpool match, Diaz delayed and yet didn't get a card, which, again, I'm probably okay with. And I'm not going to be the guy to be like, hey.
We got a segment for that, so let's save that for that segment.
For sure.
We got a lot to cover.
All right.
Decent amount of time.
We are starting, right? We are starting with the injury roundup. Yeehaw! Injury roundup. Let me put my hat on. The hat on that doesn't fit.
Okay.
And that's why it's so funny.
It fits. It's your size for sure.
No, it's definitely not my size, as I can't push it down.
It's an adult hat. You just have
It is a kid's hat. I am seeing
hat.
Myself.
Basically your size is what
and
shooting for
I'm trying
usually.
to straighten it out.
There are a lot of injuries, though.
Brian,
none more important than Breche Eze, and that had to hurt you personally, right?
Yeah. And I would say early substitutions last week, and just straight up benchings and other things that happened,
and surprises
seem to be
surprises. People we thought were injured, but then started.
So let's go back to last week, because one of the big ones was, of course, Arsenal. Like, we can't escape them ever. So you went from Saka not in training, Saka unlikely to make it. We are hopeful, but it's going to be a long shot, whatever. And he shows up and
plays one of his best games of the season.
85 minutes or whatever, scores a goal. Just completely
and possibly ended.
Shredding.
This is from my brother Matt, who is a massive Liverpool fan. When it happened, he said, "Oh my gosh, Saka just ended Robertson's career."
I don't know if he ended his career, but he definitely was a liability.
It definitely helped Saka
terrible.
Look better, because Liverpool did not double team him.
And Saka is a tremendous player. So,
but we're in injury roundup. So, anyways, continue.
So Saka's fine,
not injured.
Urian Timber, it seems, also amazing recovery. Went from has never been wasn't sure if he was going to make it to. He in fact was never injured at all.
Yeah,
seems to be totally fine.
Did you hear the interview after the match with Virgil van Dijk?
No.
They're like asking him, "Well, how did you prepare with Arsenal having all these injuries?" And he said, "Injuries? I think it was just the two guys, wasn't it? I think they fielded a strong team. They didn't have any injuries."
Okay,
it was basically acknowledging exactly what you're saying, that everybody's talking about all these injuries, but nobody was freaking injured.
Yeah, Gabriel
Calafiori injured.
Well,
Calafiori Tomiyasu injured. Saliba not available for red card. We had a high.
That you only named two guys.
We're not talking. All right. We'll get to,
you're right. Calafiori is out,
Arsenal.
according to your manager, out for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Odegaard
that one
out.
didn't look good. Odegaard and Calafiori were, I think, the two that he was referring to.
The best that you can get out of your manager for Odegaard is, we're hopeful he could play before the international break.
Correct.
But there's
not which international break.
It
could be the one in February.
It's the one upcoming, you stooge. Anyways,
it's Gabriel. Gabriel's the one who leaves injured from he's mid-game injured with massive ice pack on the knee.
Yeah.
Seems that he's made an amazing recovery too, because he went from he can't run to it doesn't look bad at all after we've seen this game.
He obviously didn't play today, correct?
No, he did not. He wasn't even in the team.
I wouldn't have guessed that he would.
But we're playing Preston North End in the
seems like
it is Wednesday the 30th of October.
I don't know. What's your read on it? Does he play?
Gabriel? I don't know. I think we were able to put out a good enough hodgepodge defense against a
very
Liverpool
strong
and Preston.
I still don't.
Saliba, will he be back for Newcastle? No.
Saliba's back this weekend.
Yeah,
he will
be back.
Okay.
Yeah, his suspension is over. But Gabriel is already he was one of my transfers this week.
You know what? I think he actually is out, and
I think he's out Newcastle.
I think Newcastle is the last game that he has to serve
because he sat Liverpool.
He has no triangle.
That's interesting. I wonder what that is.
Gabriel, to me, it was a sell anyway.
You include the match that he gets dismissed from, so it's 3 matches included.
I didn't think that. I thought it was. Anyways.
Interesting. All right, yeah. Well, I'll look that up. You keep talking.
Bournemouth was supposed to be a good matchup. You guys lose 2-0.
Right.
Then you're running into 3 in a row where I just say that if you concede in all 3, there's no surprise in any of that.
Correct.
So you've already,
Agreed.
a 2-2 draw against Liverpool is no surprise. At Newcastle, if you concede, that's not to me not surprising at all.
I agree.
And then you're at Chelsea, who I will probably definitely score on you.
I don't know. Maybe.
I just think those are 3 in a row where it's I would hedge toward. That was the sell for me on Gabriel, and even then you come back after that. That's after the international break. You're home against Nottingham Forest. So to me, it was I was already selling injury or no injury.
Right.
I still think it would be I feel like it's not a bad.
But the people who sold Saka, who was supposedly injured, a lot of people sold him. He comes back with a 9.
Yeah, and unless you sold him for Salah or Palmer, you're probably
bothered.
You're probably mad.
Correct.
Dwight McNeil, one of the trendy picks of the midfield, one of the cheaper guys. He is in the process of being assessed. I didn't see any update.
There's no word yet.
Dice said he had to come off. He was on the edge, so hopefully it's not too serious. So that's one of those on the edge. You're just going to get coach speak about that one, I think.
That sounds like the quarter of uncertainty.
Chris Wood, I guess all you Wood folk, is that what the Chris Wood fans call him?
Woodchucks.
You can breathe easy. The ice pack that anyone saw on his foot after the match this past weekend was just because, as he said, it got stood on, which that's not as bad.
Can you say that with an Australian accent?
Although
New Zealand,
the way he specifically said it, I don't do accents.
Okay.
He did say, hopefully it should be all right. It's got another week to go.
Okay.
Probably fine. Just at least it's something that you can at least monitor. Spurs have problems. Son was almost fit last weekend.
He was definitely in street clothes today against City.
Right. He was less than almost.
Tottenham Hotspur, massive victory against City in the Carabao Cup.
Son was less than almost fit last weekend, so you can see why he would missed. And then obviously wasn't in the Cup team today, like you said. But now that he's almost fit, you can almost talk yourself into him possibly playing at Villa or against
Is he
Villa
worth
on
his
Sunday.
price?
No, I mean, I don't even know what his. He can't be 10%. So this is such a small number of people.
6.2.
Yeah, that affects so few managers. But
right.
Mickey Van de Ven is the real bad one.
Yeah, it happened today.
Looked real bad. You never want to see a guy cry and cover his face. Whenever he's leaving the pitch.
That happened in the same game twice.
Speaking of crying and covering your face,
but that's the Mickey Van de Ven story.
Yeah.
Hamstring injuries upon hamstring injuries. Yeah. We've talked about
this that rapid. That's just
there
how
is a payment of being too fast.
Yeah. What were you going to say about crying and leaving?
We should probably cry and cover our faces because I just did some research here, and it looks like a straight red card for a denial of a goal scoring opportunity, which is what Saliba was sent off for, carries a ban of 1 match.
Huh.
So he was technically eligible today, did not make the team. Did not play, so he will play.
Really?
He will be eligible to play against Newcastle. He only had to sit
So
out
it's
the
that's
Liverpool
different
match.
than an
Violent conduct.
Violent conduct. That's
correct.
What
Anything that contains violent conduct would be a 3-match ban.
Okay.
Dissent would be a 2-match ban.
Oh.
There is a sliding scale for bans. Apparently, I am today years old, knowing that, which is probably a problem, and maybe I should go take classes for refereeing and.
I gotta believe we're not the only ones.
You should have.
I don't know how I missed that, but I guess I just
red card definition hat on top of your injury roundup hat.
Yes.
Or it should pop out of the front like a little tiny toy
Cuckoo.
cannon or cuckoo. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I thought that's where you're going. Sorry, I was trying to get you.
No, cannons. All right. Eberechi Eze lasted 18 minutes today against Aston Villa. Hamstring injury for
After
sure.
he scored, sucks.
After he
This
scored,
sucks for him.
which was two attacking returns in a row because he assisted the Mateta goal against Spurs. So if you held him all this time, you got exactly one assist.
Massive win for Palace against Spurs.
Very. He sat down. I think that's the first thing. Was subbed immediately and went straight down the tunnel. Given what happened to him last year when he and Elise were both injured at the same time,
It's not good for Palace.
No, it's not.
Palace wasn't in a good spot, anyways.
But also, I think they just know with him now he's their. I mean, he's everything.
Cash cow.
He is everything.
Yeah.
So whether it was just there, it seems like it is. If you feel something, you sit. You do not risk, and I think you should appreciate players who have that good of a read on what's
themselves.
going on. So hopefully it isn't as bad as it seems.
And I want to bring this up. I think Savinho with City.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's a fantasy issue. I think he felt something. He didn't listen, and the next thing you know, I think it
got worse
in a much minor way. For me, ages ago when I was playing, I kicked a ball. I was standing, and a ball was coming at me when I was playing travel ball, and a kid. He and I kicked the ball at the same time, but he was running onto it. He had way more power than me, and we literally hit the ball at the same time. My leg, not cool. My leg shotgun backwards, and my ankle. It was one of the worst pains I'd ever felt. And I knew we were close to halftime, and so the referee gave me time, and I told coach I can do it and stand up. And then the ball quickly after this. It was a drop ball or something happened, and then anyways, but bottom line is the ball got kicked up to the other end, and I was playing defense, and I was standing there on my weight on my ankle that was not hurt, and I just right leg said, "Hey, give me a break." Shifted over to the left, not really thinking my left was hurt, even though it was still kind of hurting. The second I shifted my weight, it completely rolled. I was done for the rest of the season and in a walking boot because I tore a bunch of ligaments in my left ankle. And so it's like
Is that why you limp now?
No, that's my left knee. So, yeah, just basketball injury, ACL. Anyway.
Oh, middle school basketball, right?
No. It was college intramurals, torn ACL.
It's crazy because it's exactly what happened to Savinho today.
That's wild. Yeah.
He didn't listen.
No, I know what you're saying.
What happened? Did they? I was watching, but I didn't see. I was also doing multiple other things. I didn't see an actual event where it looked like he looked like it was bad. I mean, he got stretchered off.
Yeah,
his shirt over his face, and he hasn't been relevant in fantasy. I guess I'm just saying
he could have been.
He's been starting a bunch of matches.
I wanted to talk about him because of the rest of the City injury problems, which is we can talk about kind of all of them in this section. But yeah,
it is a roundup.
Stretchered off, so that's already and also in tears
and shirt over his face.
And of course, Pep Guardiola said afterward he had a knock in the 18-yard box, potential penalty, by the way. And we'll see tomorrow what happened. We have to see if it's just a knock or something else because it was on the bone. Hopefully, it's nothing dangerous, but we'll see tomorrow.
When he was
that's
he was sitting
Pep
on the
Guardiola
ground
quote.
because he sat
That's not
down.
contusion.
He sat down. He was pointing one of his teammates ran up, I think was asking what happened. I don't remember which teammate it was. And he was like literally pointing at the difference of his ankles. Like something significantly happened. And I don't know if he was pointing at like, there's a bone half sticking out, bro. Like, I don't know.
FPL Physio on X suggests it's possibly a fracture or
I was thinking it was some form of a hairline fracture or something that happened to the
I was about to say, or at worst, a fracture or maybe better a high ankle sprain, but from what we know from American football, high ankle sprains may take longer to heal depending on the severity.
Yes.
But either way, it's not good. Not good for him. You had in that same match, Gvardiaww, who's extremely popular, was my transfer in last week.
I own him, yes.
Yeah, lots of people do. Down on the pitch, getting treatment at the end of the match. Pep didn't have anything to say about that.
Yasko's 30% owned.
You're already talking about...
Yeah, that's why we have a segment, Gvardiaww, because we're going to have to talk about what we're going to do about that.
And then... Akanji, Pep talked about that, how he said that he could risk it, and Pep said no, or not to risk anything. Right. You're already down Jeremy Doku in the
Grealish.
You're down Grealish.
No loss.
Yeah. Well,
on Doku, Grealish. Probably more so, but
I was gonna say with just on production, even though the minutes are sporadic, and it has everything to do with how their attack seems to be flowing and whatever Pep's setup is. Savinho's the one guy who's been, he looks more productive per 90 on the season.
Agree.
The only person better than him is De Bruyne. So of the midfielders, as far as chances created and the volume of shots and those kinds of things. So, they've got all kinds of issues, front and back. Kind of makes probably makes the Rico Lewis's safe. Oh, they were down Kyle Walker too.
Yeah,
but that's also probably doesn't matter. But either way, it makes. I would imagine that makes Foden safe. Bernardo Silva probably. You probably see him. I assume Gundogan score or he starts this weekend.
He did start. Well, he might. Yeah.
Savino was starting to draw comparisons to Mahrez in the way that he was. Approaching the game and slotting in the same way that Mahrez had, which is, I think, flattering, but true as he was settling. So it's a shame that
so many injuries, and now they can start whining about it and how they're going to lose the title just because of their injuries, Dave.
Well, they're already not going to win the fourth in a row Carabao Cup. So,
right.
And you know what?
That does not hurt my feelings.
Right.
No, that hurts no one's feelings.
Anthony Gordon, surprise, groin injury, does not start last weekend. Eddie Howe said it was a groin issue in training on Friday. The way his exact quote was, didn't become necessarily obvious to us until Saturday. And then now has been for a scan. That's the extent of the update on Anthony Gordon. Doesn't seem like it was so bad. I imagine that he's probably okay, but I'm sure anybody that has Anthony Gordon probably wasn't expecting to see him not playing on the weekend. Lewis Dunk, per Andy Naylor, who covers Brighton for The Athletic, Dunk is now out 3 to 4 weeks with the calf issue he apparently got while he was warming up on Saturday. So an already not fantastic Brighton and Hove Albion backline is now losing the quality and experience of Lewis Dunk. Fire up your Mo Salah captains this weekend.
Although
your team, Diogo Jota, officially out until after the next international break. I don't think that does anything. It doesn't matter. I think it matters zero for what you guys do.
I think we had a pretty good idea that was going to be the case.
Sorry, I should have thrown this back. De Bruyne, I thought De Bruyne was training. There was pictures of him training last week, but now per Fabrizio Romano earlier today, quoting Pep Guardiola, De Bruyne can't play yet. Hopefully after the international break, he can feel good. He feels better. He can train, but the level we need for competition, when he kicks the ball, he still has pain. It's the worst poem ever composed.
Yeah, that's horrible.
In human history.
Yeah.
With Mateus Cunha, seen with ice packs on his knees after practice yesterday. FPL Black Wolf on X, our favorite, everybody's favorite Wolves fan, assesses it by saying, I think Cunha will be fine. I really think he'll be fine. Likely just icing and lightening the workload to recover after a tiring game at Brighton. But he did say you may want to hold off on making any early transfers just in case. 90,000 managers so far have said you can stick your caution where the sun don't shine, transfers in anyway, because that's the way people do things and prices go crazy. But either way, if you haven't made that move yet, you may just want to hold off.
Because remember,
just in case
information
is
greater than pounds.
Yeah.
Pound dollars.
Pounds.
Morgan Rogers was subbed early on the weekend. No issue, just load management. Manager just talked about
you've had enough.
He'd been tired, right, and they needed to. He's one of those guys that had played. He
is killing me at the moment in my team.
Sorry, he won't be forever.
Although I will say this, it feels like he's been killing me in his last 6 matches. Again, going back furthest, 10, 7, 3, 6, 1.
Yeah.
So it's not bad, but it just feels worse. I don't know. I had a barely average week this week, but all red arrows. And so I'm like, come on, man.
He's killing you less than Onana would have been killing you in that amount of time.
Well said.
Alphonse Areola, no injury for him for West Ham, but he's just straight up benched. I don't know if you know this or not. West Ham has the second worst save percentage of any team in the Premier League.
So who's going to play?
Fabianski
started. 4-0 goalkeeper Fabianski. West Ham, 60% save percentage for the season. Only Everton's is worse at 59%.
He's been sitting on my bench all season because I knew it was coming.
West Ham has allowed 16 goals from 40 shots on target. Everton has allowed 16 goals from 39 shots.
Now, Everton has had a lot tougher schedule, I think. Everton's start of the season schedule was...
You're not wrong, but they're also terrible.
Areola had allowed 14 of the 16 of those goals. And
Branthwaite
he'd only
being able to play really hurts them. Yeah.
Areola had a 56.3% save.
Brian, it feels like this apropos in the injury roundup is Branthwaite.
Yeah,
Branthwaite, he was available for selection. Michael Keane played again this weekend. He got you 1, so congratulations to anybody all the people who flocked to him.
I went to Tarkowski, and he still got me a 1.
Right.
Yeah. Branthwaite did sub in.
Yes.
To that match, so he is not only available, he has gotten some minutes, so that could change.
Keane's the guy to move for Branthwaite, right? It's not Tarkowski.
If you're picking based on form, we can talk about this later, but based on consistency of returns, Ashley Young is the Everton defender.
Agree.
You would want your team.
But really, who you want is Luka Dean.
But really, who you want is not an Everton defender. No. But I think it's just money and team dependent, like everything else is. So no, that's the major injuries. That's most of the injuries that happened today. That is, I think that affects so many other decisions of, kind of the way you're making your transfers. To me, the popular players this week were popular, and regardless of what they did today or, whatever their midweek games are, I don't think that was going to change anything. If you didn't have Mbeumo before today and you had the money to do it, you already put Mbeumo in your team. If you can get to Cole Palmer or Mo Salah, you're getting to Cole Palmer or Mo Salah.
What a segue.
Yeah.
Brian, tell us, what is a midfielder?
Yeah, what?
You have, you still have Cole?
I Cold.
That's it.
He will not leave.
Yeah.
You do not have Salah.
I do not, because I have Holland.
And you have neither Cole Palmer nor Mold Salah.
No, I have Salah.
Oh, you still have
I've had
Salah
since my first draft of my team.
Yeah. And
because I'm not an idiot.
And Saka, of course, got the returns.
Palmer's great. I can't get to him, but
I just think that pretty much every other move, regardless of where you are and depending on how patient of a manager you are, I don't know that necessarily matters, just because now the move to get rid of Salah was, I don't know, somewhat fixture dependent. It was a little bit about rotation. It was
and he started kind of assist heavy, not scoring a ton.
And now over the as of last week, he's had double-digit returns in all but 3 matches this season,
something like that,
which is absurd. So, and Cole Palmer, another double-digit return on just the 1 goal this week. So, on the face of it, you just say, well, that's it's just one thing, but because of everything else that they're contributing, it ends up turning into so many points, which is why I just think if you're like me and you've gotten rid of Saka, Salah, and every other important player like that, and all for the sake of keeping Haaland, I can tell you how it feels to have done that. It's not great.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
Are you moving for Cole Palmer at all?
I would like to, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. That said, the reason is because I'm probably going to need to wait until a wild card, which is going to be too late. The biggest thing prohibiting me from doing that right now is Trent. Owning Trent as a defender instead of the 4-5s that are, useful is a problem.
Dave's cowboy hat's about to go flying off his
we're
head.
Not in injury roundup. What are you doing?
Injury roundup's over. It just felt so comfortable.
Dave, are you making Salah a priority transfer in?
I think it'd take 3 moves.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd have to make some money. Josko Gvardiaww would have to leave, and then Rodgers or Semenyo would have to turn into,
because you're also saying
useless.
you're also counting on Haaland being in there.
Yeah.
Without selling Haaland, you'd have to make at least 3 moves to get Salah in.
Yeah. Again, I do have. I maybe could make up some more and keep Haaland. I could get rid of Havertz and go cheaper there.
Oh, okay.
Go get Josko. It's but still that still ends up being 3 moves to get Salah in. So I just don't know if it's worth it. I think Havertz is still ownable. He's not a midfielder, and this is a midfielder segment, but it's affecting money.
No, but I mean it factors in on all levels.
Right. So Havertz is 8-1. So if we go over to forwards here and we look at Welbeck's at a 5.9, and he's been performing, and we'll get to some of these budget forwards in a minute, but I don't want to, Delap's a 5.7. So is he performing every week? I don't know. Delap in the last, again, I'm crushing our segment lineup here, but Delap in the last 4, 12, 6, 2, and 5. That's pretty good for someone who's at a 5.7.
Yeah.
Welbeck at a 5.9 has probably done a little bit better than that. So, they both of them in the last 4 weeks have outperformed Havertz on the season. One of them might be ahead. Yeah, Welbeck is, but
minimum you're gaining.
I'm just
you're
saying,
gaining at least $3 by going from Havertz down to one of those guys.
Yes,
right.
Or close to it. So
yeah,
I got it. Like I said, my fantasy team this week, I think I had a 59, 54 was the average, but I got red arrows everywhere. So I'm not sure how exactly that works when I'm slightly above average, but have red arrows everywhere. And it wasn't a horrible week, but it was not great either. And I just didn't have a couple of things perform. I still think. I know that. Well, we're on midfielders. Let's stick with that. I was about to jump ship there on
Dave.
On
I know
the
you're
segment.
screaming internally as Travis is talking about how owning Trent is affecting him owning the other premium midfielders, but I would just like you to know that of premium assets, so of the premium price players, points per million on the season. Going into last weekend, Trent Alexander-Arnold was actually 3rd best.
That's surprising to me.
Of all the premium assets,
Points per pound.
Points per million. This is courtesy of FF Stuff 3 Fantasy Football Stuff on X. Cole Palmer was number 1, 6.3 points per million. Salah 5.87, Trent 5.4. Actually, was tied with Saka.
And
I'm surprised by that.
If that was done 2 weeks ago, he would have been way up there. But I mean, 1 and a 2 in the last 2 game weeks is not great.
I also want to say this, and I definitely want to take credit for this. This podcast 6-7 years ago came up with points per. We called it points per pound, and then people have called it points per million or whatever. No one was doing that before us. I swear it. I just want that to be said, Travis. I know you don't believe me. You're looking at me a little bit of disbelief.
I mean,
this podcast
I don't really think
was one of the first. It matters. It matters.
No one's gonna
absolutely
give you a trophy or give.
I need a cookie. Someone give me a cookie or lollipop. No, that will not work. You do have. Ironically, there's a cookie there, but it's in a wrapper, and so
what you want on pod fact checkers is what you're needing.
All right,
I would love
getting
that.
back to the segment.
So the
here.
point is,
what is a midfielder?
Well, we've skipped that and we've gone to
we're
premium. We're on premium permutations
we
right now.
Absolutely are not.
You just asking me how he was going to get to Salah. You asked me how I was going to get to Palmer. That's
we've had
premium
a couple
permutations.
Chances to break from the schedule. We're going to stick with it.
This
guy.
Right. What is a midfielder?
You said something funny, or can you repeat what you said earlier? Because it was funny. Do you think you can rehash? You said we've never, like, certain guys aren't valuable, but then certain are. Or what did you say pre-pod? I screwed it up so bad. You even remember?
No. What I was going to say is that if you're prioritizing Cole or Salah,
it's worth it.
Is it? I mean, if it's at the expense of Haaland, like, is that seems to be the only way to go about it easily? Because then a -4 turns any midfielder
correct
into
Salah,
which means it can also turn into Palmer. But I would say,
like, am I better off to have Chris Wood and Salah, or Haaland and Rodgers, or Haaland and Semenyo?
Right.
That's the actual question.
Right. And that's exactly, in my case is the exact same. It's Haaland and Marcus Tavernier, because that's exactly who would be going up. I would be still risking the possibility of Phil Foden starting, which I think I don't know who else they have, but he might still find the bench. You never know.
Never know with Pep,
because he did play today a ton of minutes, and it would be keeping Solanke in the team, and keeping underperforming Kai Havertz. It would be moving one guy, which is Haaland, the number 1 scoring player in fantasy, for a $5 to $6 million forward, so that I can move the cheapest midfielder I have up to Mo Salah. So that really, and it would be for a hit, because I've used all of my transfers doing all this other stuff. Right. So I guess then the reason why I'm saying Salah is because I still think the next 2 for Cole Palmer are just less enticing than Salah's next 3.
Yeah.
So at Manchester United and home against Arsenal for
United on the bounce is I agree with that. That's
still
tough.
A not great Manchester United team, but
I'm not saying that the next run of fixtures for City is bad, but it's not great. 3 out of the 4 away to Bournemouth, away to Brighton, home Spurs, which they just had trouble. They just lost to today, and then at Liverpool. So if you're going to go a stretch without Haaland, and he doesn't score as much away as he does at home.
So it was hilarious because last week I went through all the Haaland numbers, just the before and after the De Bruyne injury, and then this week it's like, well, at least he scored 1,
right?
And it was on like his highest XG game week of the season.
Right.
He had a 2.3 XG, was actually higher on Fantasy Fix. Fantasy Football Fix, this podcast statistic gave him a 2.39. He had 8 shots, which was number 1 on the week by 3 shots.
Crazy.
Like, no one had more than 5 other than him.
Yeah.
He had 4 shots on target. No one else had more than 3. And he had 4 big chances by himself.
Right.
So in a week where he probably should have scored, if there was ever a week that he should have scored a hat trick, it was this week, and he finishes with a goal. And so, so I guess that even like that, his expected points.
He scored early in that match,
right.
by the way.
What a tease for a game that ended 1-0.
For sure.
His expected FPL points in the match at least by Fix's calculations, was 11.54.
Wow, and you got 6.
So even on a triple captain, though, that's a 33.
Right.
He's outperformed that 3 times this season.
Easily.
Right. So I guess that's what I'm saying. Like now, like, is it going to be better this week?
5 times.
Okay, even worse for the people who triple captain. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, before it was the numbers were down comparative to the first 4 weeks. This week his numbers were like off the charts. The underlyings were off the charts. That was with Savinho, who got the assist on the goal, and now he's injured. I'm not sure creatively what it's gonna look like without him, without Grealish, without Doku. It's gonna fall to Bernardo Silva
without De Bruyne.
Without De Bruyne, so it falls to Bernardo Silva and Foden, and I guess Mateus Nunes,
who's not been playing poorly, scored today.
Right. So,
fine.
but I guess that's why I think that's the tough thing in all of this.
He came out of this week, and all the newspapers are saying, "Did we just find the new KDB for City?" Because he played that well.
That's idiotic.
I agree. They're definitely jumping the shark on that. But all that to say, he's not bad. He can play a game.
Not saying he's bad. He's fine.
Yeah.
But I think, like, even this week, it's not like Salah was destroying. It's not like he finished the game with.
No, he was going up against Timber.
But it's not like he had even a 1 expected goals. But he finishes with a goal. You know, he finishes with a goal. He finishes with 3 bonus points.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so his total, the double digit return for him. It's
Salah's XG was 0.38 for the game.
Right, it's low. And so that's the thing. Like, you can make a big deal about Haaland should have done amazing and didn't. Salah shouldn't have done amazing but finishes with double digits. Like, all of this is so, I mean, it's just the variations of, it's just the way the game goes almost every week.
Just the way the cookie crumbles.
Kinda, yeah. So that's the thing. Like, you know, people.
This pod sponsored by Crumble Cookie.
Oh, no, is it?
No.
Did you get some?
Belvita.
It's fine.
It's rookies. We're committed to rookie cookies
For sure.
not crumble. What are you doing?
So,
Well, it's a big name.
what if
brand.
rookies listens?
So
They're gonna
what?
stop providing us
The
with
reason why
cookies.
we're saying what is a midfielder is that what I think what you were trying to get at earlier is that right now the midfielders that you have, the peripheral midfielders to Saka, Salah, Palmer,
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what I want.
matter almost not at all comparative to the weight of those premiums. So the closest that you have now is Mbuemo,
Oh yeah.
who has to me is maybe more essential than
I
those
agree.
guys because of the price.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
you're not. No one's really viewing him
As such,
the premium the same way.
his numbers are
But
demanding
he's
it.
right. But he's amazing, and so
37.9% of teams agree with you.
I was gonna say, when I looked at it, I was honestly surprised to see that he's under 40%.
For now.
It just feels like such a locked, essential midfield choice right now.
The third most owned,
Yeah,
which is okay.
which is pretty close to
He's-
essential.
Yeah, he's only less than 1 point, 1 percentage point less owned than Salah.
So, if you want to roll quickly through premium permutations, I mean
Yes, we will.
that really is the question with these guys: is like, are you selling Haaland? Which to me,
You're saying yes.
It just
You're saying
makes
do it.
me so nervous.
You didn't own him at the beginning of the season, did
Right.
you?
And
you were fine.
I think. Oh, you're right. I didn't. But then all of a sudden he rips off his first 5 games.
And you missed it, and
by
you were
the,
fine.
By the second game, no, I think after week 2, I can't remember.
you
when
got him for one of those 17.
I think you did. I think that's right.
Yeah.
I got into it as quickly as I could, so I got 2 of them.
So you got him by week 2.
Yeah, because as soon as it happened, it was a I'm not missing this again, and then
I remember I
it's just
survived
off a
week
cliff.
1.
Right.
And I sort of hung on week 2, and then after week 2, I said, no more. I've got to have him.
This is such Groundhog's Day for FPL. I feel like the content of this is like now the week has started out yet again with so many accounts saying, look at the team you can build if you don't have Holland. And it's like,
well, that's where I started the season.
That's the whole season. That's the theme of the season since before
when they
the
put
season
him
started.
at 15, it's a great price,
right?
Because now all of a sudden it's a significant question. He's owned 73%. That's just the thing. And if he goes off and you don't have him, you're crushed. Chances are, like, the pathway to surviving a Holland hat trick is so fine, I think. And other people out there would say, oh no, there's ways you can do it. We talk about this most weeks. There's plenty of people, top scoring teams without him.
Yeah, and so many teams.
And Brian, you always say, like, good luck. If you have to be perfect at every position.
So this week, if let's say all of the moves for people to get Brennan Johnson, to get like tons of moves for Foden, like what if he did come away with a 10 or a 12? Then you're matching the Salah and Palmer owners. The scores are significantly higher, whether you have those guys or not. If Solanke gets a goal, he's probably getting bonus points. So instead of a 2 on top of a 5 after a 6 or whatever it is, you're getting closer to 10s from your forwards. It of course then it evens out. But like this week there was nobody, like there was so few people that had like Jared Bowen to make up that difference. Like that is one of the guys where you're already talking yourself out of it. I saw so many accounts that were saying like, look, his position is deeper. You lose Kudus. You just, creatively so much is falling to him, and he just doesn't carry the same goal threat he does. But penalties matter again because
they do.
Bowen gets the penalty for them. I'm just saying, like, that's one of the guys this week where you're like, he could have been a difference for you, but it was like, what, 5%? He's like owned 5% or whatever.
Yeah.
And all of the other trendy picks that, all of the Everton guys. And, like I said, I think so many people had talked themselves into, Spurs just kind of ticking along. Like it feels like they were starting to get into gear.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be the Jekyll and Hyde Spurs season again.
Which is
that's what I'm saying.
Spursy, right?
Right.
That's what they are.
So anyway, the way you're building your team here is it's what how much risk are you willing to take on? How much of a hit are you willing to take on? Like, are you willing to be patient and hold Holland through yet another week, despite like everything the way it looks with City, and how do the injuries affect them really? And then you're looking at Liverpool where you're like, they just scored 2 against Arsenal.
And here's the other thing I do want to bring up against the Arsenal hodgepodge backline, but we'll get to that.
We haven't got to Dave Wants to Cry.
So
okay,
this is a significant question when it comes to Holland. Because of all the injuries to significant creative players and or players that make things happen on the pitch, Savinho, Doku, Grealish, De Bruyne, Rodri not being there hurts them bad.
Right.
Like, again, he just won the Ballon d'Or or whatever. Did I even say that right?
Ballon d'Or.
Whatever.
Sure.
Like, he is a massive player for them. I said it last year. Not that it was, I wasn't, it wasn't some great insight, but their record with Rodri not on the pitch was horrible. They've survived it a little bit. Kovacic has stood in pretty well. Mm-hmm. I just don't know how much longer they can continue to play at the level. I think Pep has his guys trained so that they will continue to survive on some level. Will they thrive? I don't know. And how will that affect Holland's
They're not dominant
points?
like they were.
You can easily look at Holland's overall points and see that his first 5 matches before these injuries started racking up, his first 5 matches were absolutely crazy. It was 7, 17, 17, 13, 9. Get to week 5 after the Arsenal match, all of a sudden some injuries start racking up, and then it's 2-2-2 and then 6 and granted, like you've said, he should have outperformed it against last place team in the Premiership. So his XG was 2.39, yet he only got one goal.
Yeah.
So even with his XG being massive, he still only got a goal where he should have had more. In the 3 weeks prior against Wolves, he had an XG of 0.0. Against Fulham, an XG of 0.25. And against Newcastle, an XG of 0.45.
Yeah.
So and then again, I'm bringing up his fixtures. Next 3 out of 4 away from home at Bournemouth. Again, on paper, it's great. He could do great. Bournemouth has been tougher this year than they have in the past.
I agree with that.
Brighton at Brighton. I don't know. Sometimes Brighton on their day can play tough. Then they're home Spurs. They always have tough time with Spurs. And then they're at Liverpool too. And then they're at Liverpool. And then the game after that is they're home to Forest. And Forest has been playing everyone tough. I'm just saying their schedule is not great for them. And Haaland, without the players around him, hasn't been fantasy great. And his XG hasn't been good, with the exception of Southampton, which he greatly underachieved.
Right.
So I'm looking at it and like, no, seriously, I just did it. I sent Haaland out for Chris Wood, and then I brought in Salah for Rodgers. I now have 2.3 in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now all of a sudden, going in the next couple weeks, assuming Haaland doesn't get a hat trick, which would soul crush, but now I can turn 2 dead players into players that matter.
Yeah, I don't think that the
Doesn't mean
question.
you can play him though.
The question has never
No,
been.
I could.
I feel like we've kind of said this too from the beginning. It's not, and again, we're not the only ones saying it. Just that you're never selling a great player for an otherworldly player. You're never selling a terrible. You're not selling a great player to bring in a terrible player necessarily. I think at this point, because of the pricing, you're only ever swapping a very good player for another very good player.
Salah on the season, 84 points. Haaland, 75. So,
right.
So if you're looking at points, where are the points coming from? Even though I would say Salah is not the player from 3 or 4 years ago, but still he's so good in certain moments and he's so clutch that he's still continuing to perform. Is that fair, Travis?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's not smoking past people, dribbling through 4 people, and getting goals. Is he still producing? He's either producing assists or goals, and he's continuing to produce fantasy.
One of the other premiums, and I know you're probably not going there. No one on this podcast, I don't think, is going there, but Bruno Fernandes being one of those guys that's like an almost has been premium, and
he
now
scored today.
Scored 2 today.
And he did. And then United with now, and we're getting there. I guess we could discuss it now. With Ten Hag gone, is it Django Unchained? Is it hey, the we can now be who we want to be? I don't know.
Well,
and I'm assuming an interim has stepped in. Obviously, they haven't brought anyone in
Ruud
yet.
van Nistelrooy is going to take over until they apparently name Ruben Amorim from Portugal. Sounds like after the international break.
Who's he with? We should know
believe
this.
That is correct. Yeah, Sporting.
So 2 things. One, Praz, FPL
Respect
royalty,
him a lot.
reminded everybody earlier, FYI, he's a Manchester United fan. FYI, this is not a new manager or lack of old manager bounce. Leicester are literally playing kids. So that would be the first thing with that.
That's fair. I would say in counter to that, look, goals are goals. Building momentum anywhere.
And that's
when you
fair
can't
because
score goals.
Leicester played kids and United didn't. Right? They played the team that needed a win, needed a morale boost, and they got it.
Agree.
Yeah.
Regardless of who they played against.
They needed a performance.
They got a W, which they haven't seen in a while.
And it was against a Premier League team. It wasn't against a championship team or whatever. But either way, but I think that's the point, is that they were not playing a normal Premier League lineup. But I would just say too, it was, a must-win, save the manager's season game against a really floundering West Ham team, and they crap the bed, and Bruno Fernandes, more of the same. 5 shots, which is tied for second most of anybody for the game week. Puts 0 shots on target, which you might be able to tell was tied for worst last week. 0 shots on target. 1 big chance for Bruno Fernandes, 0 goals yet again, an XG of 0.54. So only a few guys managed an expected goals total that was as high as that and didn't score a goal.
Right.
Which brings me to good point number 2 this week from another FPL royalty, FPL Raptor, who said, Bruno Fernandes doesn't suddenly become a better option with Ten Hag gone, by the way. The issue hasn't been creating chances, it's been converting them. So as many things as you can blame Ten Hag for, Bruno points dodging is not one of them. And so...
Interesting.
I know that I'm not... Look, these guys' opinions are as good as mine sometimes. I'm not so sure about
Some
that.
would say better.
I mean, no, I'm serious. Like, Ten Hag has completely underachieved his entire time there, has spent millions of dollars and seen nothing to show for it. So he was there for at least, 3 seasons?
I did see one person,
and
one Manchester United
I
account,
refuse to believe it.
They did put together a list of the kind of the quality and age, kind of top to bottom, like development players that were there before Ten Hag, and now what they have now. So he kind of said at the top, like, I should have saved it, but basically to say, not to excuse any of the failures or underachievement, but basically you had players who were like, you have Anthony Martial like on his last legs as one of your key players as he's coming in, and now you've got
Xerxes and Højlund.
Right. You've got at least younger developing players and significantly younger than the guys that were there before. So
in
at
some
the very
places,
least,
but at defense, it's not the case.
Well,
you got an aging Maguire, a Luke Shaw who can never be healthy.
Euro was injured in preseason.
That was horrible. I did see that,
and he was highly touted.
Last year he had Rafael Varane. I'm just saying, like, he's got Casemiro, who's a dinosaur.
Hey, he scored 2 goals today.
Yeah, I know. One of them was a great long distance gool. I'm just saying, like,
he scored a goal.
Ten Hag was there
for
2 years and 4 months.
They got Christian Eriksen on the roster.
Right. All of that to say,
they got Johnny Evans on the roster. Don't try not to sell me on United's got a fantastic, that Ten Hag has done a great job with signings. I won't believe it.
Yeah, but you're the one that's telling us we need to buy Bruno Fernandes.
I haven't said that yet, but I'm like,
it's the schedule. It might be a little bit of a weight lifted for sure. I'm just saying, like, he's one of those guys that's in that price point where you're like, I'm not considering Son. Son makes it an easy rule out just because of the injury and form of the team, but Bruno's the guy that everyone has flirted with all season long, and it's been a lot of underlying numbers and no real output.
I will be on the one guy that I think might benefit most from Ten Hag being gone is Marcus Rashford. I will have my eye on that, along with Garnacho. At Rashford at a 6'9" and Garnacho at a 6'2". Yeah. I'm not saying I'm going there. It won't surprise me if Rashford starts to look like a different player.
The after home Chelsea, which I don't know that that's necessarily a bad fixture for them. That's why I think game weeks 11, 12, and 13 for them are all of a sudden. But this is the thing. Do you want to wait for that? Do you want to wait to see what happens this week?
I do. Yes, I want to wait.
You really do?
I'm not paying attention.
Yeah, like... I don't care. I mean, I can easily go from Semenyo to Rashford, but I need it, or even Garnacho. But like, I want to see. It's not worth a hit for me this week. I need it.
No, but I'm just saying, like, but this is like the getting ahead of it. So it's even like, you could have waited 2 weeks ago and just said, you know what, I want to see Phil Foden get the start. I want to see him get in there. And I think the issue was like, gonna beat the traffic here.
Right.
I want to get out in front of this.
You were on that team. Right?
I was happy to get an assist last week, and then of course this week it's nothing, and so that's why I think he's the first guy where you're like, well, I have the money now. I can just undo the move I made 2 weeks ago, and I can go in one move. I can just go back to Saka,
Right.
From Foden to Saka, and be done with it. Haaland stays in the team, and every time I look at that, I'm like, no. The way it has been with Manchester City has been, Foden has tended to benefit when De Bruyne is not in there. So
Agreed.
This has just been a matter of him getting back to whatever form he was in last season, if that's even something that's possible right now, which it kind of feels like it's not.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting ready to say. He just looks like a guy who is running around in the box and then receiving the ball running backwards more often than anything else. And what you want to see is him driving at defenders.
Yeah, and he did that a couple times at Southampton. The one thing that he does have, he's on set pieces again. So the fact that he's taking corners, that is something that's going to benefit, can benefit him.
Especially in the bonus category.
But I think, last week, it's, a home game against the team that you expect them to thrash, and really it could have ended 1-1.
It should have been 1-1.
Right.
It was a crossbar.
Right, Cameron Archer, what are you doing? Yeah. Anyway, after all of that to say, I just think the way you're setting up here in the midfield, everyone is now shifting the weight to Salah, Saka, Palmer in some combination of one or two or three of those guys with now what we can talk about next with some of these unbelievable budget forwards.
All right, so let's get into this, because if I make a move and I take a hit, it would be Haaland out again for all the reasons I've already stated.
Right, and you're looking
Salah
at
in. By the way, is Salah's last 4 weeks have been
incredible,
magical, and that's one reason why I've slowly climbed down, is because I have not owned him. His last 5, 6, 10, 3, 12, 10, right? So he's not only scoring and assisting in multiple of those matches, but he's also getting bonus points. And so he's doing, we had a lot of talk before the season started about, hey, bonus point performances are going to change in favor typically of the midfielders. Is that fair? Wasn't that the preseason jive?
The bonus point
it wasn't.
structure,
it was going to be
away from defenders.
Away from defenders. Yeah. More towards midfielders. And,
or just the fact that the attacking player, someone who gets attacking returns, was weighting the bonus point system scores heavier in favor of people who actually do something attacking wise compared to say a 1-1 or 1-0 game.
Yeah.
Which was like goalkeepers and defenders. Certain goalkeepers and defenders are going to get that, just by virtue of save points or whatever. It happened with Gvardiaww in the Manchester City game, where a game that finishes 1-0, Gvardiaw's your 3-point bonus getter.
That's right.
In that game. So, but either way, the point was bonus point structure changed in a way that was skewing toward the attackers.
All right. So, Brian, take us into this. We got a bunch of budget forwards. I'm going to run down the list in form. Guys who are, the FPL website is listed in highest in form at the moment. Chris Wood, Welbeck, Antonio Cunha, Archer, Nico Jackson, Vardy, Strand, Larson.
Did Mikel Antonio get a return of some kind this week against Manchester United?
He did not.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know how he's that high in the list.
It's
so
the past 4 games.
His past 4 games is 5.18 and then 2.2. His XG in the last 2 games aren't even mentionable.
5 and an 18. That'll bump that average way up there. In a segment we're apparently going to have to keep at least for the first half of the season, probably the theme of the first half season, I would guess. Cheap forwards. Yeah. All of the top 12 forward scores this week were from forwards priced 7.9 or under. Haaland is still the number 1 forward. I should clarify that. Said that he's the number 1 scorer. He's the number 1 forward scoring for the season, but the gap is closed. Chris Wood, 59 points.
You said Salah, you meant Haaland.
Yeah.
You said,
gosh, are you serious?
yeah, you did say Salah, but
Gosh, don't wind the tape back.
yeah, you meant Holland. You meant Holland.
Still the number one scoring forward for
correct.
the season. Earlier, I said he was the number one scorer for FPL.
Salah is the number one FPL scorer by 9 points.
Good, we cleared this up. The gap is closing. Chris Wood on 59 points. Danny Welbeck and Nicholas Jackson 57. Watkins and Havertz 4th and 5th highest, but all the scores immediately below them are from 6.5 forwards, 6.5 million forwards or less. So, like, obviously no one on this podcast, I don't think, is going to say that, like, Strand Larson is better than Ollie Watkins.
No.
But when Ollie Watkins is only 13 points ahead of, say, Jamie Vardy or Liam Delap, he's 12 points ahead of Wissa, who missed 3.5 games.
Yes.
The decisions are tougher now. Chris Wood, great numbers from Late Riser earlier in the week. Since Nuno Espirito Santo took over for Nottingham Forest last December, Chris Wood is second for non-penalty goals, trailing only Haaland. He has 17 non-penalty goals. Haaland has 18. And he's only played 100 minutes more than Haaland has.
Wow.
So that is an amazing number. 31%. This is the conversion rate stuff that's just like there no numbers. It doesn't matter what number of shots he took. It doesn't matter how many shots he has or whatever, or it's the fact that he has 31% scoring rate despite being 25th for shots. So he's converted 31% of his shots into goals. And it's because he's put 58% of his shots on target.
Wow.
So, like,
when you're that close to the goal, I guess that it's hard to miss.
Big giant man in front of goal.
He's getting good service.
Yeah.
In good locations, and he's making the best of it.
Haaland has a 19% goal conversion rate and 50% shots on target.
Wow.
So Chris Wood is bettering him in all of these things. The only thing he hasn't done is score as many penalties and has one fewer open play goal. So just amazing. Like, and I think that's where, like, so you want to buy him. So,
I mean, I am concerned about his injury, but I guess maybe it shouldn't be. It seemed like it was just
if it's a stomp,
throw some ice on it. Stomp.
I mean, they definitely.
They can recover from a stomp.
I guess. Is it a deep cut?
He's a tough guy. No stitches.
So I think the appeal of all of these forwards, but especially for like what's upcoming for them, it makes benching cheap guys so much easier, I guess, compared to expensive guys. Like,
yeah.
I benched Kai Havertz this week, and looking at it, I'm like,
that's a lot of
but
money.
he's so expensive.
Yeah.
That's really that was like the reason why I didn't. But I think a lot of it was Saka's not going to be there. I thought, like, if you had asked me prior to the game, I would have said Liverpool's about to run roughshod on Arsenal. This is
because the narrative was, yeah.
No Saliba.
I felt horrible going into the game.
Yeah,
serious. I on Slack I said that, and I just zero confidence in going into that match.
Not to stir up trouble, but did you like the goal that was disallowed?
No, that's the next segment. Let's finish this one.
No, just let's get to that.
But I'm saying in tough matchups, though, like the next four for Nottingham Forest, they're home to West Ham, home Newcastle, at Arsenal, home Ipswich. I'm saying that only at Arsenal is bad.
Right, sure.
Mm-hmm.
At home Newcastle is not bad. It doesn't matter what color you're looking at on the screen. Then another bad one after those four, at Manchester City.
Sure.
Whatever.
Which might not even be that bad depending on what their injuries look like.
That is true.
But then after Manchester City, they are gray, but come on, how really gray are they matches? At Manchester United, home Aston Villa, at Brentford. So yellowish gray, closer to a I don't know, what's almost green, but what's between gray and green?
Yellow.
Light green?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like any of those
What
matches,
spectrum is he talking about?
I can't see a color thing in front of me. I don't know colors.
I don't know my colors.
I'm just saying, like, even in those matches, even in the ones that are tough on paper, it makes it like if you're spending the money, in other places or whatever, like you roll them out there and take your chances. You bench them. I don't think you feel bad about it. You
I just love the way Forrest has played all season.
Yeah,
and Chris Wood's getting decent service from multiple players. Forrest doesn't have a midfielder that is like, hey, you should talk about him. They don't have a midfielder in the top 20.
You know what it is this fall? It's the Alex Moreno effect.
Okay.
Danny Welbeck said,
Travis,
F you.
just when you thought we couldn't get through a pod without an Alex Moreno mention.
There was nothing to talk about.
All right.
Danny Welbeck says, F you, Dave.
Yes, he does.
Played straight through that supposed
Yes, he does.
back issue, a goal, bonus points, 7 points, third straight return for Danny Welbeck.
I can promise you this. No one is Welbeck is not getting steroid tested. He is somehow Lance Armstronging his way around whatever drug tests are going on, because there's no way that guy's continuing to stay healthy.
How dare you sully his good name?
Although I love the guy, and he's continuing to produce great fantasy own, and I'm like, should I bring in Chris Wood or Welbeck or both?
What's amazing about Danny Welbeck, Dave, is that he did not score against Arsenal in week 3.
Correct.
Out of respect. He did not score at home against Ipswich in game week 4, international break. He did not score in game week 6 at Chelsea in a game where Brighton scored twice.
Right.
Otherwise, he scored in every game.
It's amazing. That is absolutely, and I love that for him. He's such a good guy. I love that for him. Tough
fixture, easy fixture, hasn't mattered. So that's why the next 2 weeks at Liverpool and home Manchester City, those are actually bad. Like, actually statistically bad for attackers, good for defenders. Brighton is... When Brighton drew you guys, which was luck.
Yes.
It was a sending off that changed the game. Obviously,
That's
lucky...
like every other game for Arsenal this season.
Right. But I'm saying prior to the sending off, Arsenal was in such absolute cruise. It was no one was close.
Similar to the first half of the Liverpool game.
So I just wonder what full strength, maybe minus Lewis Dunk, but full strength Brighton
looks like
against now a Liverpool team that is just
they're rolling.
They are humming.
Except for against Arsenal.
So
they survived.
Danny Welbeck currently
champions do.
Currently on transfers in, it is not stopping almost anyone. Danny Welbeck, your 5th most transferred in forward, almost 100,000 transfers in.
Give me the transfer ins on forwards real quick. I want to know what the mass is. Travis, can you give me the top transfers in at the moment?
Cunha.
No.
What?
It's got to be.
No, it's who we already talked about. It's your top scorer.
Wood.
Yeah.
Welbeck. Why would you bring Welbeck in for Liverpool and then
transfers
City in the next 2 weeks?
That's what I'm saying.
I don't have them up.
I have current transfers in. Well, that can't be current. That has to be for last.
It's not
week.
right. That's why I don't even
transfers
worry about
in for the game week.
There's a stat page for it, but the Premier League one isn't as good as whatever you use.
Transfers in for the round so far. It's Chris Wood. Chris Wood is by far the most transferred in. 258,000 transfers. Wissa is second. 150, almost 150,000.
His price just went up, by the way.
Cunha's 3rd. Nick Jackson 4th. Danny Welbeck 5th.
All right. Can we play a name game? Ode to Fantasy Focus, the old Fantasy Focus.
Never heard of him.
I know you don't. Brian does.
We could.
This is not an American football podcast. Would you rather own Welbeck or Chris Wood?
I mean, I guess I'd take Wood.
Okay. Would you rather own Chris Wood or Nico Jackson?
What I was going to say...
This is also assuming that money doesn't matter at the moment.
What I was going to say...
You're selling Holland and you can go to anyone.
I was going to say about Nicholas Jackson in a little bit, just that the amount of disrespect I have for him in my mind is so high, and it's unfair.
But
I just think I would rather have
in his last 16, 5, 2, 6, and 9. Again, I will repeat his last 5 games, going back to match week 5. 16, 5, 2, 6, 9.
Yeah, it's crazy because I pretty
and that's
sure,
against Brighton, Liverpool, and Newcastle, Forest, and West Ham.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Not in that order.
I don't think I've seriously considered getting Nicholas Jackson once this season.
Would
I know
you rather
we've talked about him?
Would you rather own Havertz or Nico Jackson?
You mean Wood?
No.
No,
I changed it
you're
to Havertz.
Havertz.
Would you rather own Havertz or Nico Jackson right now?
Right this second, I would rather have Nicholas Jackson, but this is what recency bias does to people.
But you own Havertz right now.
I do own Havertz.
Travis, who would you rather own, Chris Wood or Nico Jackson?
You're switching.
He is. But I think Chris Wood.
Okay.
I think Chris Wood. I mean, United, Arsenal, Leicester doesn't look awesome. West Ham, Newcastle, Arsenal doesn't look awesome, but I like that better. I think Chris Wood.
Would either one of you consider bringing Cunha into your team?
Yes.
I already have him. I started him, played him.
Yeah, for sure.
What?
Yeah.
Both of you?
Yeah.
I don't.
Would you rather?
I
Okay.
have him.
Would you
I played
rather
him.
own Chris Wood or Cunha?
Cunha, because then I don't have to pay.
No. That doesn't matter.
I think I would have rather had Wood's
Right
points
now.
over this period.
No. Right now, would you rather own Wood or Cunha?
I mean, the benefit of Cunha is the Wolves' schedule being as wide openly green as it is.
Yeah, which is why.
So, are you going with Cunha over Wood? And nothing mattered at the moment, but making that decision, who would you rather own, Cunha or Wood?
I think Cunha is the play.
Brian?
I mean, I'd get Cunha.
Wow!
I just think
Cunha's
Cunha.
the
I just
play.
think Cunha has more. It's roots to points. I mean,
The
it's,
18th place Wolves or wherever they are, you'd rather go with Cunha over Wood. Listen, this is great. All right, would you rather have? So I'm assuming then you both would rather have, if nothing else mattered, just making a decision this point for this match week going forward, Cunha over Welbeck. Because if you're choosing,
I would definitely take Cunha over Welbeck.
Welbeck's schedule doesn't look great. It all comes down to
or
fixtures.
Cunha over Nico Jackson.
It's fixtures. It's going to be Cunha. Their fixtures are incredible right now. Incredible right now. Like to the point where even though Aït-Nouri is risking being banned, I brought him in this week.
Yeah. So and Nicholas Jackson,
That was fool's gold.
But
we'll get to that.
The thing with Chelsea is that the next two are at Manchester United, home Arsenal, and it's the same reason why I would be less inclined if I had to pick one, which unless you have a wild card or a whole ton of transfers or you want to take a huge hit, it's the same Salah over Cole Palmer question. In 3 weeks, anyone with a wild card, anybody with a lot of transfers, you'll be piling on to Chelsea in 3 weeks. As soon as they're out of the Arsenal match, the Chelsea schedule opens up basically until mid-January.
Yeah.
So, it's not because Nicholas Jackson's bad. Here's your numbers on Nick Jackson. After 3 bonus points and 3 bonus points and a 9 for the game week, like I said, he's tied for 3rd for forward points on the season with Danny Welbeck. He's 6th for shots, and he's tied for 2nd for shots on target. So, he's been extremely efficient in front of goal, which I think, even he's had a couple moments this season where I was like, oh, there goes Nicholas Jackson again, missing some sitters or whatever.
Yeah.
And here he is tied for 3rd for points for forwards. Plus, he's the 2nd most creative forward on the season. He's created 10 chances. Only Cunha has created more. So Cunha's created 15 chances. He's number 1 for creativity for forwards. So it's the reason why, am I doing anything right now with Nicholas Jackson? If I had to pick, based on actual results or whatever, that is the question. Nick Jackson, because of the price, it is comparable to Solanke. It is. You do have to think if you had Havertz, do I just downgrade Havertz to Nick Jackson? The thing is, Arsenal's schedule is not going to get harder. Arsenal's about to get easier too.
Correct.
So that's the other part of this. Like all of this shuffling and moving around, like Kai Havertz was until a few weeks ago, we were talking about Kai Havertz being comparable to Haaland in the calendar year so far. He was the only guy who was performing on par with Haaland. Now the Arsenal performances have dipped a little bit because of injury, because of absences, whatever. So
poor refereeing,
Yeah, horrible conspiracy against Arsenal.
For sure.
I mean, you have to factor that in.
At least you guys are acknowledging it.
No, but Dave, keep going down the list. You're not buying Mateta. He's 7.3. He still meets the threshold.
Owned him a lot last season,
right? And that's the point. That's exactly it, Dave. He's $1 more than all these other guys, but
he's underperforming where he was last year.
Has underperformed what he has because Crystal Palace has inexplicably fallen off. So
inexplicably,
they were at the compared
sold
to
Olise. That's
right.
That's inexplicably.
Well, that is inexplicable. That is a
That's explicably.
That is explicable, but that's not explicably explaining the whole problem. The defense has dropped so far off. They're creatively, it can't all fall on Eze.
Right.
Losing a player the quality of Olise for sure, but the fact that they've done nothing. I'm just saying that. Remember what a monster Mateta was at the end of last season.
Yep.
If they figure it out,
there's potential.
Why wouldn't he be back on the radar?
What about Delap?
What about Vardy?
What about Vardy?
Scoffers keep scoffing. You did last week.
I'm a scoffer.
Vardy's gonna party. 4th goal of the season, goals in back-to-back weeks. No surprise, every time he scores, he gets bonus points. He's 5.7. I'm not saying he's going to score.
He's away at Ipswich this weekend, Brian. What do you think he's going to do?
He's going to have another party.
He's going to party.
He's on your penalties. So that's the question. At 5.7, it's close enough to Chris Wood. It's
close enough to Cunha.
Right.
Yeah, I'd rather have those other guys.
Liam
close
Delap.
Enough. It's easy right on par with Welbeck at 5'9".
He's the same price as Delap, who, if you at the start of the week this past weekend, you're probably not happy to see him get benched, but comes off the bench and scores a goal anyway.
Delap, last 4 match weeks, 12, 6, 2, and 5.
Right.
And I have happily collected all those points.
You have not.
Yes, he has.
No.
Yes, he's had Delap. He's had Delap for a while.
I've had him for a while.
Good for you.
I had a 74 this week.
That's a great score.
Amazing.
It's a great score this week.
That's really
It's
good.
the only
Solid.
week I've scored well.
It's okay. I'm going to give you credit for the 1 week you scored well. Well done.
Not sure what kind of sicko you'd have to be to buy George Hurst, who's selected by a total of 2,503 managers.
I think you're going to say 25 people.
That is. Yes, 2,500 total people have him. That's his total selection number is 2,503. At least it was earlier. He gets a goal and an assist in his first start of the season. He was injured. He was one of the many,
Ipswich.
the Ipswich players, whatever. No one's buying Evan Nielsen. He scored this week. 5.9, perfectly off-putting kind of price for someone compared to all these other guys.
All right, now hold on.
He was benched this week too.
I want to say this. Evan Nielsen, last 4 match weeks, 9, 2, 5, and 8.
3 returns in the last
Sneaking under the
4
radar.
games. After Manchester City this week, which I think a lot of the sales of Bournemouth have been in the past 3 to 4 weeks because the schedule, they hit that really rough patch. After they finished Manchester City, the Bournemouth schedule, similar to Chelsea, pretty great until the break in January. That probably January 4th time frame. So I'm not saying you're putting Evan Nielsen in your team or whatever, but
Maybe.
it will benefit him to have a lot of easier fixtures. This is the very bottom of it, just because he didn't get a return this week. But why is Raul Jimenez a bad choice still? Just so he didn't get a return this week.
Yeah.
He's up against other 5'7" guys, but he has been hot. Again,
I think he still hits.
Raul in his
next
last
five weeks.
6 matches, 9-6, 9-5, 7-2. So 5 up until this past week, he's giving you a return the 5 previous matches up until this week.
And this week, 4 shots, 3 chances created a big chance. Pretty unlucky not to come away with something this game week. Fulham's next 5 matches: home Brentford, at Palace, home Wolves, at Spurs, home Brighton. All 5 of those matches.
Would you rather own Raul or Cunha?
It's still Cunha for me.
I am probably going to finally do what I said I was going to do weeks and weeks ago and get Raul in my team.
Over Cunha?
Home Crystal Palace,
along with
home
Cunha.
Southampton, at Fulham, home Bournemouth, at Everton, at West Ham, home Ipswich. That's the next 7 game weeks for Wolves.
For sure.
Are you come on,
no, Wolves.
There's not a single match in there where you're like, oh, that's going to give them trouble. No.
Raul is outperformed him. I know.
I'm just saying. You're right. He has outperformed him, but
I'm just saying.
I think the opportunities
another
are there
guy
for
sliding
Wolves.
underneath the radar in the last 6 match weeks. Raul.
I mean, we talked about
him.
10.2%. Yes, we have, but we haven't said, hey, I don't think we said, hey, he's a legit consideration.
Oh, no, I think we absolutely have. He just hasn't actually done it.
Yeah,
None of us own him on the pod, but are you regretting not owning him sooner, Brian?
Yeah, of course. I think it's one of those.
I came really close to moving.
It's because I had, like a lot of other people, had Muniz. I had Muniz for too long.
Other flyers.
And even this week, like Cunha scores a goal that is a goal. A goal's a goal, but it's off a heavy deflection, and so. But
a lot of his are.
But the point of the reason why you're getting him though is what we said before. Like he already statistically is one of, like, as far as shots and total numbers, and then like I say, he's the most creative forward of all forwards by a margin.
By a significant margin.
Right. So it's the reason why we talked about it last week. FPL Black Wolf had already said that, because Strand Larson was, getting kind of picking up so much steam because he had scored in the previous match and Cunha didn't.
Right.
Even Black Wolf was saying, like, Cunha's got more it's roots to points. That's it. Like, how can he score?
You feel like he's got more roots to points than Raul?
I think it's similar.
I feel like the surrounding
similar.
personnel on Fulham is greater than the surrounding personnel for Wolves.
No, I mean, you saw that when Fulham scored against Manchester City, it was set up by just the audacity of Raul Jimenez to back heel a pass to who scored their goal. It was not Smith Rowe. Was it Iwobi?
Was it Pereira?
It was Iwobi.
Or was it? I know it might have been Pereira.
No, I'm pretty sure it was Iwobi.
But either way, it was set up by him, and so that's the thing. Like, and then
it was Iwobi.
And then there's the question for them of Andreas Pereira. So Andreas Pereira and Raul Jimenez have both attempted penalty kicks in the past several weeks for Fulham. Manager has said it's Pereira's job. That Raul Jimenez actually apologized for having taken that penalty because it was supposed to go to Pereira, but Raul took it anyway. And then when they got the next penalty, goes to Pereira. We talked about it last week. The weakest penalty attempt probably ever.
So poor.
And saved by Emiliano Martinez. So I think there is that question of, like, okay, well, Raul's been better historically from the spot. He's better in this season from the spot. Like, what's going to happen the next time Fulham have a penalty? Who's actually taking it? I think everybody is really eager to see that.
All right.
That is that's unbelievable list
of
options.
Valuable, low-price guys.
You have Liam Delap.
And Cunha.
Right, but that's what I mean. If you pick
74.
If it's Wood, Cunha, Delap, like,
is that even that bad?
Why? What are you mad about in that?
Recently, not much, because Holland has not been producing.
Exactly. So and even still, like,
even when Holland is producing, those guys are too.
Right. You're never going to be mad about it. This is another one. I tried to find it. I could not find who said it. It was at least 2 weeks ago, talking about Haaland at his price needs to not just score, but he needs to score exponentially greater than even Salah or Palmer or Saka to justify having
Agree.
him. So it's
Which he
only
did
As a
early.
forward, especially.
When
First
he-
5 weeks.
right when he was getting 17s, you're really feeling it. As soon as he gets a 9,
Yeah,
you're like,
man.
that's not so bad. And then he gets a plain old 6,
Or
and you're
2.
like, forget it.
Or
Get out
2.
of my team until De Bruyne comes back. So I think that's why then Havertz and Solanke,
Got you. All right.
who are problems.
Let's move on to Dave Wants to Cry.
Do you want to cry?
A lot, he does.
Oh, man, where do we start?
So you said you felt horrible going into the
Yeah, I
game.
just didn't feel confident. Well, number one, I didn't know if Timber was playing. I didn't know that Saka was going to play. When I saw that, I felt a little bit better. But still, the team hasn't looked the same since Odegaard's been out.
Yeah.
And I knew Saliba wasn't going to be playing. And Saliba had the best year? No, but he's been good. And his partnership with Gabriel is good. And going up against a very strong Liverpool team that has been playing great. With their, credit to Slot, and he's gotten them to change and play a little bit more methodical, and it's really worked for them. And, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I just don't feel, even though this is a home match, I don't feel completely great about it. And then I see the lineup and I'm like, okay, well, good. Saka starts, good. Timber starts. Wow. Partey is playing right back. Okay. Ben White's playing center back, which he's done before. He was a center. He was a center back before he came to Arsenal, and Arteta
Went on loan at Brighton.
turned him into a right back. So I felt okay with that. But again, that was his first match playing at center back this season, and/or last season, and/or the season before that. So it just felt like we kind of had a hodgepodge sort of backline with Partey and Ben White. Ben White out of position and Partey playing a position he normally doesn't ever play.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Trossard, Havertz, and Rice in the midfield, probably mostly fine. Actually, that's not true. Havertz was playing striker. It was,
Martinelli.
I mean, I guess technically, yes. In that situation, Martinelli, I would consider as a forward. It was Marino. It was Marino, Trossard, and
Rice.
Yep. And Marino's first main Premier League start. So, and I thought he did well. That didn't scare me. And then it was Havertz and Saka and Martinelli across the top. So, all in all, it felt fine. Arsenal dominated the first half. For anyone who watched it, that's undeniable. Second half, when they had to battle some injuries, they go up 2-1. The Van Dijk goal in the corner, I believe, tied it.
Yeah, what injuries did they battle?
Gabriel went down.
Okay.
And then Timber left as well.
Okay.
Timber sat down and he walked off, but so he was either done and was forcing the referee's hand to make the sub early, or he felt something. So
they like feeling something, don't they?
Sometimes you got to feel something, Travis. Yeah. So,
they spent a lot of time on the ground. I was just wondering if
we have a 2-1 lead, but now we already had a hodgepodge defense, and now we're bringing on Gvardiaww and 17-year-old Miles Skelly, and now Miles Skelly has to play. So now it feels like, holy crap, we just got to hold on. My brother Matt, at sometimes doesn't see things clearly. He's like, you guys had us. You should have just kept going at us. And I'm like, are you kidding me? We just dropped 2 of our defenders. Salah could do nothing against Timber all match. And all of a sudden, Timber's not in the game. We're bringing in a 17-year-old who did fine. But still, he was, he out of position, and/or Gvardiaww, someone was out of position on the Trent. Great pass by Trent, through ball to Salah to tie it at 2-2. And look, if you had told me at the end of the day, Dave, you could get a draw out of this match, I would have taken it. Absolutely taken it, even though it was a home match. But just everything we knew going into the match, I would have taken the draw. After watching the match, I feel like we should have done more, especially there at the end when somehow was it Havertz or Gvardiaww was called for a foul leading up to the Havertz goal in the box. That was mind-blowing.
Well, Havertz also takes it on his arm as well. So they called the foul, but there's no way that goal stands because it comes down.
In that it was perfectly...
It was in the corridor of uncertainty.
It was perfectly irritating for either team, regardless of how it was ruled.
It's
if
the
it had
hem of the
there.
sleeve, right? And so it's well below
it's
that.
It's not necessarily the hem of the sleeve.
See,
I agree. It's a weird.
Offsides is hem of the sleeve. I'm
never
certain
consistent.
Yeah,
it's never consistent, and so
this is an arm. This is a shoulder.
But that was never in question.
It didn't have to be in question because they called the foul on. I'm guessing Gvardiaww over.
They called the foul on Gvardiaww
coming over top of
which I'm not sure happened.
I mean, he went over top of him, but whether or not it's a foul is a different question.
It's never the foul on the guy who jumps to head the ball.
If the other guy can't go up for the ball because the guy that jumps prevents him from going up for it,
is that what happened?
That's a foul. That's what they called. That's what they called. Did it happen? I'm with you. I'm not totally sold. But to me, I don't think it matters because again, me, even if they don't call that foul, that goal can't stand because it's absolutely.
It just felt like Anthony Taylor was like, "Oh crap, they just scored. I need to blow this whistle."
No, I don't know about that. I don't love the foul. I don't love the foul. I'm with you on that. But I also don't love the narrative that the goal would have stood. For two reasons. Number one, it hit the arm, and two, the whistle had already blown before the ball was that shot was taken. The header
whistle should never been blown.
I agree, but at that point again, there was no going back, right? So I don't
and there was
I
so
don't
much
like that
noise.
there was controversy on there. Yeah,
there was so much noise. There was also controversy on should Virgil have gotten a red card for what he did earlier in the match when he got a yellow card.
That was kind of nasty.
It was absolutely nasty. And then also Diaz again, which wouldn't have mattered, but like Diaz delaying the game. And again, we briefly discussed that earlier. Look, either call them all or call none. But the inconsistency, I think, is just what drives people nuts.
So and Howard Webb actually addressed that here recently. The silliness or the insanity of not of calling something when a player is wasting their own time, if you will, right? So they're calling time wasting only when the time wasting offense is for a team in a winning position or a tying position. If your team is losing and you waste time, they're not calling it.
Arsenal was never losing in the match.
I'm just saying that is what the reason for the inconsistency.
So if you're tied 0-0 or 1-2-2,
no. If they're losing, if they're tying and it's clear you're trying to get the tying result, or you're right. winning and you're trying to keep the winning result, then obviously they're going to call it. But if you're in a losing position,
which doesn't apply in this match,
and you kick the ball away,
correct.
They're saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to call that. So there has been inconsistency where they didn't call it because they were wasting time. And in all actuality, they are slowing the play, but they're slowing the play in a way that is disadvantageous to them. Therefore, they weren't calling it, which is weird. I hadn't thought about that. That's not part of the rule, but that's how they're interpreting it, which was interesting.
I also don't understand why guys even attempt this, because supposedly, now I do understand in the moment you want to slow down play. You don't want someone to quick start you, right? If your guys are out of position.
Yeah.
But if the play is already slowed down as it is, why even do that? Because if there is quote unquote time wasting, they've shown this season that they will add as much time as necessary onto matches. I mean, this season it's easily had more time added on the matches at the end of the game than ever before.
Yeah, but that time doesn't actually mean anything, and they don't ever add enough compared to the amount of time that's wasted for goals, substitutions. The silly. I mean, God help me. How long is Raya going to take on these freaking goal kicks?
It's hard to get up. The gravity's tough, man. It's hard to get up sometimes.
So I mean I get it, but at the same time, like,
look,
it's
when
just,
you got
it's just
that when
old
you had that
habits and stuff.
hodgepodge defense out there, you need to milk it for all it's worth. Now, Rye got a yellow card like in the 46th, 47th minute, which was ridiculous, and I have no idea what the hell he was doing. But
doing what he was told to do, I think. That's what your brother says.
Of course. It's insufferable. It's truly insufferable.
Just
Anyways,
like laying on the ground all the time is insufferable.
I was fine. Look, I was actually disappointed with the result at the end. It felt like we could have got something from it. And mainly just because Liverpool didn't. I'm not saying Arsenal presented a ton of offensive chances. I think either team did. But Liverpool definitely did not. Diaz team. was completely not even mentioned. I didn't know Curtis Jones was even playing until the second half.
Yeah.
Salah was look, he is a guy, again, I said this before, he is a man of moments. Like, he only needs one. Yeah. He is not the guy that is the constant threat the entire match. But my gosh, is he so good when he does get a moment, he will crush you on it. And because he's one of the best players still in the world at his age. So credit
don't believe that. He did not win African Player of the Year. He did not. He was not even in consideration for the Ballon d'Or.
I tell you what,
the amount of disrespect that he gets is just infuriating.
I tell you what, obviously I'm not a Liverpool fan. I will absolutely back Liverpudlians in complaining about the fact that he has never on the world stage gotten the credit that he deserves, and I don't understand that.
It does not make any sense to me. It makes absolutely no sense to me.
Dave, Ben White assists Saka for goal 1.
Of course he does.
Ben White now definitely starting with Calafiore's injury. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's got to.
Yeah.
Dave.
And Timbers. Whatever.
So Timber played, I think, a half today. He started today in the Preston North End match, and I think
they got
I think they got him on a pitch count. This is not a Major League Baseball World Series podcast. I think they got him on a pitch count, and they say, hey, we're going to run him out there for half a game and pull him. And so, I think they're just continuing to be limit his minutes when necessary.
Dave,
oh my gosh,
Dave, are you surprised that Gabriel Martinelli is even inside the top 25 midfielder transfers in for the game week?
I love him as a player.
That is
I'm surprised by that. I'm not sure why.
25,000
He had a really good performance.
25,000 people have
that's
put
surprising.
Gabriel Martinelli in their team.
Yeah, I'm not doing
game
that.
Week. Dave, did you see anything from Kai Havertz that is just screaming at you, sell?
No, I'm not selling him. I have him. That's a legit question for me this week. And I saw his performance today. He just continues to turn in good performances. And if he's not asked to have to play in the midfield, actually against Liverpool, he did not. Today against Preston North End, he did. But still ended up with a headed goal late in the game. So not late in the game. I don't know, it doesn't matter. 60th minute. But.
In the last 2 weeks, where he's scored nothing in FPL returns,
correct.
He's had 11 touches in the opposition box, which is 5th best for forwards. But he's only taken 3 shots.
Yeah,
I think that's it. I think that's the thing.
Yeah,
that can't continue, right?
Well, No, I don't think
it
Travis thinks. Yeah, I don't think it will. I mean, look, I also want to give, not that this gentleman's going to care, but Konate was arguably your best player on the pitch.
Not according to Scott Wiebe.
I don't know what game he was watching.
What was he doing?
Konate was absolutely amazing. He covered at times. You thought Trent was out of position. Nope, Konate's there. And so, Konate had an absolutely amazing game. And again, I know he will not care, Ibrahim, but I want to give you credit. Absolutely fantastic, stellar game.
I'll add him on Twitter.
Yeah. The reason why I would think it can't continue is that as of right this very moment, Erling Haaland number 1 among forwards for total shots for the season with 43. Second place, Kai Havertz.
Wow,
28 shots for the season.
Wow. So I think that's just going to continue. He's going to continue to be center forward. If and when Jesus plays in place of Saka, he's started on the right. on the right wing. So it's Havertz is the center for him.
I don't want you to get too dehydrated here with all those tears. So I think we need to move on. We're very quickly approaching the 2-hour mark. So
there was a lot to talk about. What about your first attacking return for the season for Virgil van Dijk? Does that do anything for you?
No, it does not. However, I will say he is the top scoring defender in FPL right now. So not because of offensive returns. So the offensive return is to me inconsequential. But from a defensive standpoint, if I'm moving off of Trent to get more money to be able to use it elsewhere, Virgil is a consideration for sure. No question. I think Konate is also a good choice. Some will say that Konate has not nailed down his spot. There is no one else. Joe Gomez played center back for the cup match today, as did Gerald Kwanzaa. Gerald Kwanzaa was directly responsible for both goals and is not a danger of taking back over the spot, because he did start the first match of the season against Ipswich. At this point, I don't see Gomez coming in and taking Konate's spot. So Virgil and Konate, absolutely reasonable pickups. I think their schedule is fine. If you're get in the business of the Liverpool defense if you're not already. Trent obviously makes sense. He's points per pound. We've already talked about that.
Last question about Liverpool. How many more games does Kelleher have?
Enough to where
3-5?
I don't know. The key factor here is don't sell if you have him, because Yaros started it in the cup match in order to make sure that Kelleher was healthy and didn't suffer an injury.
Okay.
So that to me says that they are planning to start him for the foreseeable future.
Trent's pass to Darwin Nunez, which set up.
That's right. Thank you.
Set up
the hockey assist.
Good correction there.
An
yes.
unbelievable pass.
Darwin with a great pass to Solomon.
Darwin looks like he's figuring it out.
Now that there's no Jota for sure. Now I know we asked this last time that we knew Jota was.
There's a guy named Gakpo just hanging around.
Now is Darwin a consideration for you?
I don't know. The only reason, if I hadn't watched the match today, I would have said sure, but honestly, I don't think so. Not yet. They played without a forward, in the match today, and Gakpo scores two screamers. Diaz muscles another one in across just pure will. As far as I'm concerned, I do think that there are going to be opportunities for Diaz. For Darwin. I think he's doing well. He is progressing, but I don't think the time is right for a move to him.
Okay.
All right. Next thing.
Our last segment.
Really the last thing was just to say that with all of the injuries, with everything else that was going on, if you want to move off of Trent, which it seems like a lot of people are doing, if you want, depending, I think the news on Gabriel's injury is obviously going to impact a ton. 215,000 people, myself included, from 2 weeks ago. I'm compounding that, but 215,000 people this week sending Gabriel out. Mazraoui from Manchester United yellow flagged again. We already said Lewis Dunk is going to be out. Gvardiaww, depending on the seriousness of whatever, if what he was getting treatment for turns into anything serious. You've got some pretty significant players, obviously some of them significantly more owned than others, to move that money around. And I just think based on transfers in, Dave, you are saying you are very much on record of saying that Ryan Aït-Nouri, despite being the number one transfer in, is fool's gold. The numbers I had for you were that Ryan Aït-Nouri had scored 3 goals in the last 4 games on my favorite, the number one statistic for Brian Chescubumo on FPL America, the podcast.
One shot?
3 goals from 3 shots, all 3 shots on target, all 3 shots in the box, a conversion percentage for a defender of exactly 100%. And my favorite part of it is that he has only touched the ball in the box
3 times?
6 times.
I was hoping it was 3 times.
So 3 of his 6 box touches were shots.
Yeah.
And all 3 were goals.
Yep. It felt like that when I was suggesting it pre-pod. You confirmed it. I continue to think it's fool's gold.
I needed to move on from Robinson. I just
Antoine
and Anthony Robinson. He is American. You need to know that.
I should. I was thinking surely it wasn't Liverpool's Robinson,
not Robertson. Yeah.
Well, I will tell you, Dave, that we this podcast talked about Ryan Aït-Nouri on the September 24th episode of the show.
And since then, he has scored 9 million points.
He pretty much has.
And Brian did not own him for any of those.
No, I didn't own him for him at all. But the reason why we brought it up was that even at that point, he was second for shots for cheap defenders, and that's still the same. So for the season, I know he's scored 3 goals on 3 shots. He's still in the top 5 for shots for defenders, and he's in the top 3 for shots on target for defenders. So it's not
all right, fair.
And so it's. I agree with you. Like he's not gonna kick the ball at the net one time again for the rest of the season, and they're all going to go.
Still,
in the net,
I mean,
right?
the fact that he is able to take more shots than most, and his competition is soft, as long as he's on the pitch and doesn't get yellow cards, I think he's fine.
He is sitting on 4,
which is that's exactly
he's going to miss a match.
Yeah, like one of them is, and that was another Black Wolf point. He's the featured player on the guest on the podcast this week. Just said how hilarious it will be for him to get his 5th yellow the 5th yellow of the season against Crystal Palace, and then he's not available for the home match against Southampton in game week 11. But that's TBD. I guess we'll find out.
Maybe it doesn't.
Exactly. So no, but I'm saying like out of all of these guys, like it seems like most everybody is moving off of the super premiums. If you're moving from Trent, you're moving. So many people moving to Konate.
Yes.
So despite the fact that you're saying, and I would say the same thing, I would want the stability of Virgil, but Konate,
the price of Konate is really alluring.
I've owned Konate for many weeks.
Yes, you have. That's why I'm giving you the eyeballs.
If you do what you did just a little bit ago, Dave, and you sort by form, we talked about Michael Keane. I still think Michael Keane. Again, Everton is a defense to target. It is not a defense to like buy into based on the color-coded matchup system.
Yep.
However, it's not going to stop anyone because the color-coded matchup system says that Everton plays at Southampton this week, and since Southampton is green, go buy Everton. Right? I don't know that that's true. I mean, you saw what Southampton almost did on the road to Manchester City. That was FPL John Batra. We've mentioned him before. JIANBATR. But that dude, he said that he rewatching the City and Southampton highlights just talked about the quality of the league top to bottom, just to say like how did they they didn't deserve to lose necessarily. Like they played extremely well, and they're the worst team in the Premier League.
Right.
So Everton's not Manchester City, and so this is a home game for Southampton. Sure, go by Michael Keane, I guess. If it wasn't for the potential injury, Gvardiaww, I mean, I sold Rico Lewis to go up to Gvardiaww this week. That was. It was
it worked out because he got you the bonus.
Right, I was going to say, and Gvardiol's still like on form, just by the last, since the last 4 weeks or whatever. I would say since game week 4, the reason why I was going to bring it up for Everton was for Ashley Young. That Ashley Young has gone all 5 and all 6s for basically since game week 4. He's played 90 minutes in every single one of those games. And the reason why he's doing that is because he's gotten 3 assists in the games where he's the one creating the goals in the games where even if they conceded, he's still getting the attacking return. So that's it's a 6-5, 6-6-6 in the last 5 games. He's second since game week 5. He's second to Gvardiaww for defender scoring. So, like, it's the craziest. That might be the single craziest move. Like the absolute just that is so gross. But
it's not.
That's the sicko move of the
week. He's doing it. He's a 0.9% selected. It might be the single biggest differential you could do without going, without intentionally choosing somebody based on their ownership percentage. Sure. I am conceding full defeat on Luka Dean. I
still have it.
I wanted it to be.
I've never had him.
I wanted it to be so over. I still want it to be over, and yet he gets a clean sheet this week, and because he gets subbed at 70 minutes, he doesn't. He is off the pitch before Bournemouth score.
Yeah,
and he leaves with a clean sheet. His bonus intact 7, and finishes with 2 bonus points.
Unbelievable.
So Luka Dean, despite the fact that he's done honestly nearly nothing this season, is the 7th overall scoring defender. He is in 7th place. He has managed to be 7th best scoring defender despite just 4 shots for the season. He's put 1 shot on target. He has 0 goals. He has created 8 total chances this season.
It doesn't make sense, and I will clarify. I don't own him because I want him. I own him because I have other fires to put out.
Agree.
I did not start him this week, so his points are sitting on my bench.
That's
just is what
you've gotten 3 straight somethings from him.
Unbelievable.
The best stat for Dean, it still is the same. I know we've mentioned this before. 5 big chances created. So he's created 8 total scoring chances, 5 big chances.
Yeah.
So only Leif Davis has created more big chances than him for the season. I don't know. Yeah. I want to be mad about it. I still will be probably bitter about it, but at this point, I have no choice but just to acknowledge the guy just is doing what he did last season when I wanted it to be another man in that spot, and it didn't happen. He just
never heard of him.
He just keeps being good.
Yeah.
Dave, I feel like we should not have overlooked it, but everybody, because of the matchups, everybody was moving to Brentford, but Ethan Pinnock had scored 2 goals in a row for Brentford. I don't know that you want anything to do with the Brentford defense. Just want to say Ethan Pinnock was the guy who put the ball in the net. But this is, I feel like, the fragility of the defensive, you go through the form and you're like, all right, well, Senesi from Bournemouth, not buying that guy. I don't want a Brentford defender.
Right.
Brighton just lost Dunk, so I don't want Gvardiaww. Crystal Palace, truly inexplicable clean sheet against Spurs this week. And so Chalobah and Munoz and Tyrick Mitchell and the whole defense, they're all the top scorers for the game week. Exactly. Yay. So they're way up there. James Justin, Leicester, number 1 transfer in a couple weeks ago. He's back to, crashing back to earth, get you a 1 in the last 2 weeks. I didn't understand the appeal of that even after a 12 and a 10, but whatever, the fixtures look great. I think you're back to where Rico Lewis looks like a bargain again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 4.8.
Just in time for you to have sold him.
Exactly. And Pep's saying,
inexplicably,
we want to rest him, but we can't.
Yeah.
So now you have.
He's a young buck. Play him.
He's fine.
I still think there's value to be had in the Nottingham Forest defense. I know that I'm not we talked.
Ina's price went up, but
we went through the list of the names. Milenkovic is still the guy who that was one of the guys that we had highlighted before. I mean, it's not. I mean, we're not the only ones doing that, but I mean, those are the. And then the goalkeepers kind of are factoring in there too. So Sells, who you got to feel the pain of that one.
Not bringing in Sells, bringing in Onana.
Right. Which I don't hate that move.
That's still a good move.
I talked about liking that move.
I like bringing Onana.
It felt like a big nothing burger, my 2 transfers this past week.
But yeah, I just all of those things, like the even the defenders that are being transferred in, like top to bottom, you're like, I don't love any of that. Like there's nothing in there where you're like, oh yeah, absolutely. 8 Nori was the closest to it, and even then you're like, it could go real bad. So anyway,
all right, Ben D League Ben, Mini League Ben. I think this is the first Mojo chart we've had this season. He sent in a Mojo chart. I want to go over it real quick as we close this down. I forgot about this, Travis. That's why it's not on.
You're going to take it over 2 hours.
That's why it's not on the schedule. No, it won't. All right, start rounding off the top. In
Thank
the
you, Ben.
On Fire, the only one in the On Fire category, Manchester City. Red hot, 3 teams, Liverpool, Chelsea, and Forest.
Yes.
Liverpool, Chelsea, Forest in the the red hot category. Tickled pink, number 5, Arsenal, Aston Villa, Brighton, Brentford. Arsenal, Villa, Brighton, Brentford. Rounding out the top 10 in the neutral category is then Spurs and Bournemouth.
It feels exactly right.
This does. It doesn't seem to be a whole lot of bias here. I don't know. Maybe Chelsea should have been higher than Liverpool. I don't know. Maybe. And up top, that's debatable. Starting the bottom 10, again, still in the neutral category, Fulham and Leicester. And then in the bruised ego category, West Ham, Everton, Newcastle, Palace. It feels a little bit high for Palace. You think that, and then you see the last 4. And again, in the final category, the last 4, in the feeling blue, Ipswich, Man United, Wolves, Southampton.
Yeah.
Probably about right. I might actually have Ipswich above Palace.
Wolves can't feel good until they get more than a draw.
Result. Yeah,
right.
That's the one I was looking at too. Is Wolves probably needs to be a little higher, but you're right. They have very little to be excited about.
United hanging around at the bottom. I wonder if that's the Scouser in League Ben putting United
they just fired their manager
a little bit deeper.
Let's not.
They're low.
They can't.
I think their mojo might be on the rise now that they fired their manager.
It could be, but yeah, I don't hate that.
League Ben, thank you for sending that. Well done.
Over 2 hours.
It's tough to. We're not there yet. I'm looking at the timer.
Yeah,
there.
but
is that timer wrong?
Well, I started it.
Late, you got me. All right. Well, I'm looking at the wrong timer. All right.
That's okay.
Gentlemen, we covered so much. Great pod. I loved it. I learned, as I always do, and continue to love doing this with you guys. For the FPL America podcast, this is David Smith. Until next time.